saying it's good to go. Very cool. I totally spit. I was gonna do the monitoring from my phone because my laptop is trying to get this thing. I guess I should probably nail down my setup for these live streams at some point now that I've redone my room a million times. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like once you start doing them all the time, like I had mine set up for, you can kind of see in the background, I changed it all up a bunch, but like I had mine set up where I would just literally plug in, hit go, and away it went. So it was just a turn on a light, hit go, power on, like, it was easy. But it's one of those things where once you get it down, it's good. But then if you rearrange things or you don't do it for a while, you get rusty kind of deal. So yeah. Hey, Kevin's on. What's going on? Oh, yeah, competing streams with Director's Garage. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is that a crossover? We're gonna have some crossover action. um but yeah, things, how are things after well, I'll let you run it. This is your jamboree. Mhm. Yeah. So I listened to, of course, the ZMF Boca, the new JDS Labs collab amp with ZMF. I was really digging on that. The Boca, I really, really liked it. I think Zach's going to be doing some tweaks to the low end, maybe. I don't know. He's still tweaking the final tuning, but um, but yeah, like besides that, I checked out the what was that? The Austria Audio headphone and their little amp they had there. The Man, I mean, I listened to some of Justin's for amps and sound stuff, but that was, I mean, I've heard all that stuff. It was more of just for fun listening because it just sounds so good, especially with like the Sennheiser stuff. So I was listening with, in fact, my new profile picture on like Instagram is me sitting there listening to Justin's yeah, amps and sound stuff with his HG800S. Let's see here. Actually, it was a surprise that I listened to that I was really impressed with initially, and I'd love to get more ear time, is the Drop Grell headphone. So Grell, if you don't know, he's the one that was the original HG800, 600, 650. He's the designer engineer behind the Sennheiser line, basically, for that generation or those headphones. And so his new one is it's pretty interesting. It's kind of interesting design, but like the cool thing about it, sorry, I'm having a light thing here, but so the way it hits the cup, the speaker, if you will, or the driver is actually like more forward on the cup itself. So I have a headphone readily available, not really. So if you look, like these are the ETAs, right? So usually traditional, the driver is, facing, and it comes direct into your ear. Right. Whereas with the new Grell, the driver is actually like a speaker, like a mini speaker, where it's firing towards your ear. And then the design is that it hits your ear for the sound and then bounces out and it's an open back. So it bounces out. And so that's pretty interesting. I think that's kind of cool and it sounded good for what, I mean, so the reason I don't listen to a lot of stuff, besides the fact that I'm usually too busy talking to people, is that you're in a very noisy environment. Like I think the average decibel rating of being in like a CanJam is like 70 something. Like there's just the ambient noise of the space, right? So the ambient noise of the space is pretty high generally. So you're getting all that noise. I mean, reality of the matter is like I'm basically, if I'm looking at something, I'm evaluating based on aesthetics and build quality more than I'm doing anything else at something like this.
Right.
But they did have a cool thing. And I was talking to Marcello from the Source AV about they have these new booths, the soundproof booths, and it's like that might be the future where they each like they could rent or have like their own soundproof booth for each like manufacturer or what have you. So
Yeah, I was thinking that too because I'm with you. Like I learned that from Chicago CanJam, even though Chicago was a hell of a lot more low key than this one was. That it's just hard to get listening time, and it's not even so much like the outside noise. It's I don't know about you, but like when I sit down with a headphone, I can't get into a zone if I'm like, okay, somebody's waiting behind me and I don't
yeah,
want to
I
take
don't
up their
like people
time.
hovering
Yeah.
either.
And
Yeah.
it just interrupts like what you're trying to hear. I like when you go to ZMF's room or Abyss had their room or Headamp or something, it's different because they're kind of off in their own
Private.
space. So you can get a little better of a listen. But yeah, those sound booths, I didn't do the Warwick one that they had going on, but it looked I mean,
I
they had a
didn't have
line for that the
look
whole
cool.
time. It did
Yeah,
look cool.
agreed.
So
I yeah, and yeah, and then my purpose for this can jam was literally to talk. Like I said, I told you we hung out for a while. That was I think majority of the time, and it was I had a different purpose for this can jam because I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
I like
So,
your idea though. That's I mean, do you want to share that or you want to wait till you
uh, well, I mean, I posted CT. So CT, if you don't know, he used to be the Drop community manager, and he also helped curate a bunch of the Drop or Mass Drops audio stuff. And so he started a whole new company called Niche Audio.
right.
And what he's doing is he's trying to like things that aren't being made anymore because they're just not like parts aren't available or it's limited or it's just like not, like a viable or for whatever reason it's not being made anymore. Right. So he started with the piety,
Right.
potato,
Yeah. Right.
which is a Schiit Magni that was like a unique build that never got actually released to the public, but it had such a unique sound signature that he wanted to bring it to market, right? And so he talked with Jason and Stoddard from Schiit, and mine. If you don't know who Schiit is, Schiit. So I'm not swearing. It's the name of the company. If you don't know, I'm assuming you know, but like, and I'm talking to the audience. I know you know, right? But like, um, but so like he basically brought this to market, right? And he built this thing. And there's only so many that he could make because there's only so many parts for that, I guess, because I guess they only made so many. And so until you can figure out a way to manufacture more of a certain type of transistor or transformer or, whatever the part is that's the limited piece. But anyways, he brought like a couple hundred of those to market and he sold them for like $100, I think. I actually have one in my closet right there. And it sounds great. It's like a very warm, almost tube-esque solid state, but it's this tiny little shit.
Yeah. No, and I was bummed because I know they sold out like fast, really fast.
Yeah,
And
real quick.
I was happy when I talked to him at CanJam and he said you could I went to his
Mhm.
website today and you can buy them now again. So
Yeah,
they had
and
enough.
that's his goal. He wants to. Oh, sorry, I
No, no,
interrupted.
you're
Go ahead.
good. No, I was just saying that obviously there was enough demand for them that they got more out right away, which is great. Because it's kind of
Yeah,
like from what I understand, it's almost like somewhat of a tube sound, right? That's what I was reading anyway.
yeah. It's warmer. It's a little more full. It has more of this like 3D like. So if you've heard, which you have the ball head there. It has more of that 3D holographic sound signature to it, while still being in the solid state. I mean, it's not magic. It's not like some magic button that's going to make this
Right.
amazing thing. It's really good for the price and the size and the power that it puts out. Yeah, like I could see a lot of people that being their final purchase for like just getting into audio and being done, right? Like it's only us crazy dragon chasers that go for the nutty stuff. But
Yeah.
he also put out which we had at I had him put it in the ZMF room, which is the um Ravenswood, which was I mean that they stopped making that years ago, and so one of those super rare but highly sought and coveted amps, and so he started making that DSHA 3F is what it's called. And so what he did was he found parts and he updated the case work and it's beautiful. Like it's a
It is.
beautiful like the side with the crazy like cube like edging on it.
Yeah.
Um, gorgeous freaking amp. And it sounds lovely. It's like one of those really beautiful sounding. And the reason it's coveted is because it's, one, it's limited. So obviously people go nuts for, oh, there's only like so many in the world. But he's actually starting to make more of them. So he's going to have a bunch of those, but they're expensive. Those are his two products. He has like this huge gap.
He does. Yeah, I noticed that. I think it's like what, $3,000?
Yeah, it's like 2,700, I think, for the TS, which is about right. If you look at like how much that came out at like roughly about the same price when it was brand new, when it dropped or came out originally, it was like 2,600 bucks. And so if you look for like inflation and the cost of stuff, and then his casework is exponent. I mean, subjective, but I believe his casework looks pretty. I think it's prettier, and way more effort went into it, I think, personally, for his. So you have to make up that cost there. That's probably why it's a little more expensive. But yeah, it's a pricey amp.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
All over the place with prices. Yeah, I checked out since you were talking about that, I checked out Zach's almost final version, I guess, of the Boca, like you were saying, and I liked that. I listened to it at Chicago, and this one definitely sounded better than what it did at Chicago. I know he got a lot of feedback about bass and giving it a little more low end to it, and it seemed like he definitely did that with this. And it was paired with that JDS Labs amp too, which was nice.
I'm excited for that.
That thing is really nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited to see what he does, because I know he was talking about making it be where the plates can be custom with the he can do custom woods for the plates and what have you. The front plates. So not like the whole. I think maybe he'll do a whole thing, but I think just the front plate is what he's aiming to do, is like a custom wood or custom stabilizer or something like that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I also listened to I only listened to a couple of the Abyss in the past, just at CanJams, and I listened to I don't remember if I told you, but the new MR that they just put out.
Is that the colorful one?
Yeah, it's their. Well, I'm laughing because not their budget line. It's $3,000, but it's their cheapest Abyss that they're putting out. That's supposed to be more universal, and it actually had sounded decent, I thought. And they had them paired up with those Woo tube minis that I've been talking about so much.
Oh yeah.
They had those paired up on those, but then they also had it on that Woo, like 23. I can't remember the name of it. The $8,000 Woo.
Oh, the big boy. Yeah, that thing's gorgeous. Oh man,
it is, and it's
expensive.
Yeah, it sounded excellent though on that tube amp. So,
yeah, I mean, so that's the thing, man. Like, there's like, have you ever done? It's kind of hard to do if you don't know how to ask. But like, you can ask a lot of times to bring your own headphones, or you can bring headphones from one place to another if you ask nicely, or if they know who you are, kind of thing. But so I did this thing where I'm not trying to bash on anybody here or anything like that, but like, I'm not the biggest fan of Dan Clark stuff, right? Like, so Dan Clark audio. And not that it's bad, it just doesn't fit I find it kind of flat. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the most engaging, like, for me. Like, it's very neutral. I mean, I don't know. I think the ones I really liked were like the Ether 2s, I think were really good, that I enjoyed back in the day when I heard them, but it's been forever. But anyways, so I had his Stealth back in New York City, and then he had it I was helping Justin from Amps and Sound. And so I had the Stealth, and I put it on Justin's like $13,000 300B, like ridiculous amp. And it was like, oh, these sound really lovely. It's like, these are amazing sounding.
But you know what? Since you brought that up, it's funny because after CanJam, I met with a bunch of the guys from HeadFi, and they were talking about the Tungsten. And I think his name's Goldberger on HeadFi. He comments a lot of stuff on there. He's a cool guy. He was talking about the Tungsten, the double-sided. And I remember
double-sided is good.
I listened to the single-sided. I didn't get a chance to listen to the double-sided, but I remember, I think it was Beef Supreme was talking about the bass kind of rumbled too much. And he was telling me that it's extremely amp picky. And he said the amp they had it set up there actually wasn't a good pairing. And so he was like bringing that around, showing people how that sounded on different amps. And I think that alone is a fun discussion, because you see
synergy.
Right.
You got to find synergy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you get like the synergy doesn't always mean like your highs to your lows to your, like a mid forward to like a mid to a V-shaped amp, or I don't know, like what I mean? Like it could also mean power synergy as well.
Yeah.
Like and that's usually an easier synergy to deal with because you just literally throw more power at the thing. It's and that could also be confused though, because you could throw more power. That's like kind of like the balance versus single-ended thing, right? Because a lot of the balance versus single-ended, really all you're seeing or hearing for most people, like there is a real value for balance in the sense of like noise, but it's rare for a home environment to have that be a factor, especially on a headphone like cable this short.
Yeah.
But the biggest gain you're going to hear with a balance is, or a balanced cable or balanced out or in or balanced system, is that it's technically a higher volume. So you don't need to, you can bring the volume pot down. Like, so if you had a single end and a power, I mean, there's more to it than that. I'm being very generalized here, but like the other thing you could see with that balance to a single ended is that usually if you have a balanced system in play and it also has single ended, balance means you usually have more components, which means they have to put more effort into it, which usually means they put higher components and value into it. So usually you're also hearing that. So like, and that's just something that I've learned over the years of being in this hobby, and like from a mentor of mine who's exponentially smarter than I'll ever be regarding electrical engineering and stuff. So
Yeah, no, and I mean that was kind of the point he was making too about the tungsten. And then, further down that chain of power was current. And that was something I didn't really
current.
understand until I got the Cayin IHA6 that Zach recommended me to get,
Mm-hmm.
because that has the high current mode on it.
Current.
That can legit
It,
make a difference on planars and things like that.
and so like it's not one to one, but like think like torque versus horsepower is like the best like generalized term I could use for like current versus amperage or power, like that in the power sense, is like haste horsepower versus torque.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And so
Yeah, that's kind of
um
what he was saying with that. So now
and then
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, you're good.
Nah, you're the host, my man,
Well, I was
bring it
just
at
gonna
me.
say, did you your favorite thing? I know, but did you check out any IMs while you were there?
IEMs, no, I did not. I mean, I did, I went and talked to a bunch of guys, but
Right.
and so like I don't, like I like IEMs, right? But I don't. Like I like IEMs because there's that's the value play. That's where you can try a lot of different things. They're usually really good sounding for what they are. And the reason I don't like IEMs isn't because I think that they're bad. It's just for me personally, they hurt my ears. Like that's just
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean? Like I can't have things in my ear for very long, which sucks because like I actually genuinely do like a lot of IAMs, like as far as the sound signature and the look and the quality, and like, and they're doing some really cool things in that market, in that space. But I just, for me, it just hurts. It's like a physical hurt thing. That's than a like thing.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm the same way.
um
I actually went to the Canara booth where Seb was,
ooh,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
listened to a
Seb's
couple
good
of
peeps.
those, and they were good. And it's funny because he asked me, he's like, "Now, do you think this one's better because you hear more of the BA difference to a dynamic?" I was like, "Dude, I'm not, I'm not there yet." I was like, "I haven't listened near enough to tell you that."
And what he's talking about, because the other thing was like with, yeah, like, so there's like single driver, there's the BA versus the dime, because with the
Yeah,
IEMs they have these little any microscopic, and they could throw like 5 or 6 of these things into the IEM cup, and so you have like these 5 different drivers doing 5 different aspects of like the like mids, lows, highs. Like it's like stereo, right? Like you could have a subwoofer that cuts off, and you have your highs, your tweeters, your mids for your like your mid range, like your like you have my Tefs back here. You have the tweeter in the middle and the mid range for but yeah. Sorry, I just tangent, but like
you're
um
good.
I think with, and the other thing, part is another reason why I don't like listening to IEMs at shows. And I'm not like a germaphobe or anything like that, but at the same time, like I'm also like,
I mean, I told my wife, so I got back and I told her, I was like, I feel kind of bad saying this, but on day two, I actually, since, you were gone, I had more time. I was listening to a lot of things in day two. but
Mhm.
everywhere I sat, I was like, I keep smelling something. It's like, but
It's the fart chair, man. You're
right.
smelling
There's
that
like,
fart
there's
chair.
so many people like in and out of chairs and everything. And it's like, yeah, I need a shower.
Remember, I
This is
told you.
gross.
I told you at the what were we listening? Oh, it was the Austria audio. I sat down
Yeah.
and it was like as soon as I sit, because the chairs have those the cushions, right? So you sit down, the air comes flying up, you know. And I sat down, I was like, and it was just straight like fart smell, right? Like it was like because there's like some sweaty dude or
Yeah.
not that or whatever, like, and they aren't necessarily farting, but I mean, like there's a
Hey,
funk
dude,
that comes
it's a
out. It's
room with
like
1,000 guys. You know, imagine a
yeah.
locker room, but with headphones.
Yeah, and I remember I come to stand up and be like, "Ooh," and this is why I don't like listening to stuff at shows
Yeah.
because it
Speaking of
does, it
which,
kind of
though,
colors
we
your
talked about the
opinion. But
Austrian audio, and I liked those. Now I didn't, again, not like a long term listen or anything, but
yeah,
I thought they were decent for what I heard, and that's about the only impression I got was just decent.
yeah, I mean, I talked to Zach. Zach really liked them too from ZMF. And like the other thing too, like so. A lot of these booths, like they don't have Wi-Fi, so they have like whatever, they'll have like 20 tracks on whatever they can play. A lot of times if you have your own like source, you can plug it in, you can have your own music going, whatever. But a lot of times it's just whatever's there, right? And then usually I just listen to whatever's there. And so I just sat down and kept listening to whatever the last guy was listening to. And it was I think it was Hotel California, I think is what it was. It was like one of those classic, which is a great track, right? But anyways, it sounded really good to me. I enjoyed the signature of it, but I did hear on that specific track there was like this metallic tinge or like tonality to like the upper vocals of when he was singing that song, and so I picked that up. But overall, like I thought it was a very interesting, and I enjoyed it for what it was, for what I heard was good. I thought, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what that sounds like in a more isolated, controlled environment with your own gear kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree with
uh,
that. And again, that's just part of the show and how it is. Now, the grill that you talked about, I didn't care
Well,
for it, but
yeah.
the only thing I will say on that is one, the headset that I had anyway, I picked up like the cup on the left side was broke, like on the spoke. It was literally
Oh,
like
geez.
wobbling on the spoke. So I was like, all right, well, I can't really give this a fair impression if the freaking thing is broken
No
in there. So
seal. It's broke. Yeah.
yeah, so
That sucks. And like mind you, like when I said I like the grill, it's more because I thought it was interesting. Like,
yeah.
and I've
Oh, I
heard
love
there
the
was this,
technology behind it.
yeah, that's pretty cool. Like I'm interested to see what that sounds like in like once again in a controlled environment in like a place where off your own gear. Um, in fact, I actually talked to Grell for a bit with Christian. I was taking headshots of Christian, and Axel came up, and we had this long car. I actually got a couple headshots with Axel as well, which is pretty fun. But Axel Grell, and but he's just super chill guy, super nice, super easygoing.
Nice.
Which always nice. That's nice to see in the space, right? Like which you have the Zachs and Bevins of the world, which are like kings and queens of nice, and super welcoming. But anyways, the other weird thing, I actually didn't like the design of that Grell though. Like it looked like a weird Faraday cage.
Aesthetically, yeah, I agree. Wasn't anything
Uh,
to write home about.
Which is funny because if you actually looked in the inside, if you were to take that
Yeah.
weird cage part, or because like this weird dome looked like a weird like Thunderdome like cup thing, but they would have take that off and let just kind of like the underlying design, like because if you looked on the inside, you could see like it almost looked like an HG 800 or like that kind of look as
Right.
far as like the screens and stuff. If they would do that, it would probably look a lot cooler, I think, as far as aesthetics go.
Yeah.
Um, but I actually want to touch on something. Kevin, he mentioned he said he ruined CT's surprise. I actually watched that,
Yeah,
Kevin,
what
and
is that?
because you, it was just funny. It was just I don't think he was not worried about it, man. Christian's also one of those people that's just super nice and easy to get along with, and he would not be bothered by that at all. So don't
Oh, I
don't
got you.
stress that.
And I'm not going
um,
to say too much more in this, but you and I also got a chance to listen to ETA's new prototype, which I know obviously they're not near ready yet, but
Yeah,
it
and
sounded
that's
good,
in
man.
fact I was just chatting with them. So that's actually what I'm wearing. I'm not their prototype. I'm wearing an ETA. This is the
Right.
O2. Well, the lights aren't the greatest. There you go. So this is the O2, and God, man, I'm a huge fan of their stuff. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it it deserves more interest. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking blindly. Maybe it is getting a lot of interest, but I mean, it deserves more. And I hated, like, I think you and I both did the same thing in our videos when we talked about it's like a souped up Porter Pro, but
Yeah.
I don't want
Which
anybody
is
to think like,
unfair.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is
that's
unfair because it's way above something like that, but it
yeah,
reminds you of
way
that.
above. Yeah, it has like the sound signature.
Right.
Like it has that enjoyability that a Porter Pro has, right? Like so like people always ask, like, why do you like Porter Pros so much? And I'm like, well, one, you have to have the Axi pads. The Axi pads are a must. but the reason I like them is because they just do it. They're easy. They make the sounds that they make are they're good enough and for anything I would ever want to use them for, you know. Um, it's funny, I actually have a pair. Yeah, it's actually plugged into my let me go grab it. You see this will fish this off my gaming thing here, but I actually have a pair Porter Pros there. Well, there you
Yep.
go. And so these ones are actually for drop, and they have a mic built into them. And so I actually use them when I'm like kind of like playing games. I have it plugged right into my PlayStation controller here, and so I use it for gaming even. So and they work great for that, and they sound good enough. So
What I love about them is that I remember you were telling me this is like when I was building my bottle at crack, that's the first thing I threw on there and they take it. Like they take a beating on a freaking tube amp and they actually sound good.
yeah, well, and dude, that's the other thing, too. And you can fold them up and you throw them into any bag you have, and you have a Portify that's like the dude, legitimately hard to beat. Um, like it's probably my most used headphone, to be honest, is the Porter Pros with Yaxi pads.
Yeah.
Like that pair right there, that's been literally all around the world. Like I've taken that to Amsterdam, Ireland, Hawaii, Singapore, like every like that's the one I take with me. Outside my AirPods Pro.
Well, it's funny. I took them with me to CanJam and I was going to listen to them on the flight, but then I was both times smashed in the middle between two people. So I'm like, all right, I can't listen to open backs while I'm sitting in the middle
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, well, see, I was on my wife was good about getting me. She's like a flight ninja. Like she knows how to do all the maneuvering and gets me seats. Like so, she got me the window seat every time. Because like
Nice.
I have a relatively large shoulder, like so if I'm sitting in the aisle, like never fails. Like my arms stick out just enough to where the cart will just smash into my shoulder every time. Never fails. But then the problem is like when I sit window seat with strangers and not my 7-year-old daughter who's tiny, it's like
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I had a 4 hour flight from SoCal to Atlanta and
oof.
I sat next to a guy that, I'm sure a nice guy, but he was one of those like making himself comfortable, draped over
Uh-huh.
my side of the seat. I'm like, come on,
That was
dude.
me. That was me. Yeah, like I was like, the guy was he was a much smaller guy than me too, but I'm antisocial, so I just was
Yeah.
kind of like, don't talk to me. And he was instantly just like, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
yeah, appreciate it. Hey, real quick, since I just killed this bottle, my buddy gave this to me recently, and it was it was only like so much in it, but it's this Yama single malt Mia Mia Gikyo. I'm butchering that. I am terribly sorry, but
Hey, I'm the
from
king of
Nika.
doing that.
My wife makes fun of me. All my friends make fun of me all the time. I suck at pronouncing things. Um, but yeah, this is good, Nika, and it's a single malt Japanese whiskey. Fantastic. So I was gonna ask, what are you sipping on there?
Yep. So this is limited edition. Come on.
Oh yeah,
There
yeah.
we go.
I think I saw that on your post on
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Hard Truth is like 40 minutes from me. Their distillery here. It's Southern Indiana, and they make good
So
whiskey. It's really good. And in terms of whiskey, it's not super expensive either. Like that bottle's like $70. So
which is nice.
right.
Always good.
Yeah. No, and it's
Uh,
really good stuff.
I was having that discussion with I think that morning I first met you on at CanJam. We're sitting there talking. I went and talked to Jason Stoddard from Schiit, and like that's all he was talking about was whiskey and wine, man.
By the way, he's another one that I mean, I didn't have an impression really of him, but when I talked to him, like he was a cool guy to talk
Chill,
to too. Yeah, I
very
mean,
fun, easy to talk to. Yeah.
yeah, he did not mind talking to me about anything,
Hmm.
and I thought that was
I
nice.
was very impressed with him. Yeah, I as well was very impressed with chat with him.
I wish I would have caught. I didn't catch any of the seminars, but he especially was given the seminar on his new Midgard amp, and he
Oh yeah,
said
yeah,
he was going to talk about. I'm going to get this wrong, but something to do with, Schiit's always talked about their measurements and how, there's the measurement battle with their amps. And he was
yeah.
basically going to talk on this presentation all about that. So he was like, this is going to get
That would have been good.
heated.
See,
And
Head Five
yeah,
messes up, man. Like that's one thing I wanted to talk to you. I was actually gonna hit up Warren about it, and I'm supposed to call him tonight or the next. I think tonight, maybe after this, I'll call him, um, and then talk to maybe get Jude on the line about it. But like, um, it's like, dude, what? That's a missed opportunity. Why aren't they filming that? Why aren't they
yes,
having those as like
100%. Somebody film
not
it.
even a live stream, like not a live stream, but you could just literally have someone recording it at least, right? Like,
Yeah.
geez, like it's, and they do that. They missed it with the review, the reviewers, the freaking or whatever. Not that I'd watch that, but like,
Yeah.
but these seminars, like I think Justin's done a
You don't
couple,
want to
like
watch
like
Zeos?
Jason.
Sorry, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I saw the dude. Like it was weird. He was incognito. Like
He
he
was.
wasn't there all day. But he wasn't there all day though. He only
No,
showed up like at the end of the day,
I think
like
this
when
was the
everyone's
most chill
gone.
I've seen him at a can jam. He
Yeah,
wasn't.
his lady friend was wandering around all over the place, but I don't
Yeah,
think he only showed up around like 5. I want to say 4:35.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think he
So it
was
was weird.
signing at his booth or something, from what I
Did
heard.
he have a booth? I didn't.
I
Maybe I didn't go
I
all
think
the
so.
spots though. So,
Yeah, no,
dude,
I didn't either.
I miss Campfire Audio. I mean, and I must have walked past him like 10
So
times, and I totally
I
missed
did
him.
stop by Campfire. I forgot to tell you that on day
Hmm.
2, and I listened to, I think it's the Bonneville. It's purple,
Okay, purple.
but
Ooh.
it's not purple, if you know what I mean. It's more pink
It's that
purple.
pink purple. It's like the pastel kind of thing.
Yeah, but that sounded good. Is a very generic term, but no, it sounded good. I like that one. That's kind of their
Hmm.
new. I don't Not flagship, but I mean
One of
top of
their
that
upper
line
ones.
anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that one was decent. But I talked to those guys. They were with. I think they were having drinks with Zach.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
That was
Yeah.
yeah when we met them to go to dinner. Yeah, yeah. They were hanging out while yeah,
Yeah. No,
good peeps.
they were good. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, so I like one of the previous ones. I met Ken, who's the founder, like a while back. I remember having a long conversation with him, just really easygoing, chill dude. But like, oh man, the world of audio files and audio is such a uh how to put this nicely, it can be a very dramatic spot.
Hmm. No, it's
And
true.
so and you can get, you can get burnt real bad for stuff that might not even be really what you're actually are,
Right.
misquoted or, or even who knows. But anyways, a lot of drama can happen and then you know how that goes, just you know. But I think I actually really enjoyed the Campfire guys, man. I think they're solid. Like they're passionate people, small team, and they're just all so nice. Like that's the thing that blows my mind, man, is how nice everybody is. Not everybody. There's some people that aren't the nicest people in the world for some of these
Yeah.
audio
No,
companies.
that's very
But
true.
I mean, generally the crowds I run in are, they're usually very nice and kind individuals, and they actually will take the time to talk to you and talk about their passions, and
Yeah.
that's really
Dude,
cool.
I had a really long conversation with his name was Bear. And it's funny because I actually asked him, he has name tag. I was like, is your name really Bear? Or is he's like, nah, it's my name. I was like, okay, all right, sorry. I'm like, just making sure. But he was I can't remember that's terrible. I can't remember the actual company name, but they did the T10 bespoke, like true wireless, like crazy high expensive, ritzy. I don't know if you saw their casing or not or their booth setup. But I actually sat next to him for breakfast the next morning.
Oh, nice.
I was just sitting on my own. They came up with Spirit Torino and sat down, and he's like, "Who are you?" Because he saw me writing notes. So we got to
Hmm.
talking, and that, I guess, to get around to my point, like what you were saying, super passionate guy. I mean,
Hmm.
he was really cool to talk to. I checked out his booth, checked out the wireless. They have a ton of like technology behind what they do, and some people
Yeah.
just don't like the Bluetooth thing. But I mean, I respect what people do, that like the time and effort and hours and all of that that goes into this stuff, I think sometimes
Yeah.
gets kind of glossed over on a 10-minute review,
Product
right?
level.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That like that's part of the reason why I wanted to do what I'm or what my new project is. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, you're good.
It's time to go pick up my daughter. If I was walking. If I usually walk to pick her up and walk to drop her off also. But anyways, yeah, man, like that's kind of the thing. Like I want to talk. That's always been something I've always been passionate about myself. Is in fact that's how I got started in doing YouTube was doing the this what we're doing right now. Like I've always loved talking to people. Like that's the thing that's the it's more interesting to me. Like the people behind the gear is more interesting than the gear most of the time to me personally. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
No, it does. I mean, it gives you an insight into what they were thinking when they made their product. So
yeah.
I agree with
And it
that.
humanizes them and lets you see the art behind what they're doing, you know, because some people, I mean, let's be real, like not everybody's going to be a ZMF where you have like you can literally hold their headphones, you know, and like it's art. You know, I have like 3 or 4 up there. I have my atrium closed over there. I can go grab it, but like it's there's a passion, like the ETA guys, for instance, right? Like this is not the prettiest headphone. Like I love those guys. I love you, Toms, EV, but like, I mean,
No.
you're not gonna same with Porter Pros, right? You're not gonna look at that and be like, that's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
And it is nice in its own way, right? Like it has, but then you listen to it and you talk to those guys and the
Yeah.
passion that's there, and then the desire to just make good audio or make something that just sounds good, right? Like these guys spend so much time just tweaking and like
I
finding that
almost
thing.
wish when I did the video on the O2 that I would have like just not shown any any B-roll or anything and just talked to him about a headphone. Then at the very end been like, and by the way, this is what it looks like. Because I
Yeah,
feel like somebody just look at like you're talking about the thumbnail and they'd be like,
yeah.
eh,
Hold
try
on,
something else. And that's
yeah,
not
but
fair.
like it's not fair. It isn't, and because not everything is about aesthetics. I mean, that is a big part. Like, I mean, let's be real. Like, I'm a big aesthetics guy. Like,
Me too.
I aesthetics and quality of feel, and that. I
Cables.
mean that. There's. I was talking to Bevan from ZMF, and we were talking about weight, the weight of a thing, right?
Hmm.
And like, I love that term, like the weight of a thing. So not necessarily like this thing weighs, you know, it has a weight, right? There's a weight to it. But there's also a weight to the quality, right? Like the glass has a certain thickness to it. There's a weight to the quality of the ink used on the label. The you know I'm not I'm just using this as an example
Yeah.
for my terms of weight, but like there's a weight to it, right? Like there's something beyond just the actual physical weight. There's a weight of beauty. There's a weight of quality. There's a soul, like a soul weight, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. And
Being
you get
weird, but
that when you talk to these guys behind the product.
yeah,
And I get what
yeah.
you're saying. I do want to answer. So Kevin was asking about
Mm-hmm.
ZMF. Do they do custom sets for reviewers? I'll let you answer that because you've worked with ZMF a lot longer than I have. Um,
Not he used to like when he first so actually fun story. I was actually one of the first people to ever get a colored ZMF. That's beyond like his purple bursts from like the drop days. He had that limited run purple burst from Mass Drop for the T50 RP mod,
right.
and so it's actually up there. I asked him, I was like, "Can I get a purple burst ZMF Verite closed?" And he was like, "Well, I mean, we're kind of working on some stuff, but let me see." And I'm like, "Dude, you're the artist. The only thing I ask is like a purple burst. Like, just give me that purple burst, and
Yeah.
I'll be happy. See what you got. And he came up with my the set that he built for me back in the day when I was first really getting into this stuff. And then I think now what it is he just does customs for everybody in the
He
sense of
does.
like he just does a ton of different randoms.
He
And
does.
then you just have to like find the one like you have to you have to get lucky and buy the one you want kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like so it's not that he doesn't do specific customs for people.
Right.
He might if on a rare occasion maybe, but I mean as far as I know I don't think he's doing that anymore. He's just doing a ton of different randoms and like art, like he's just doing his art and building these custom like the way he does like the limited runs basically. And then if you like one, maybe you'll get like a first pick maybe, or I don't know.
Sure. Now,
For me, it's been just, hey, I just sit on the hover button, bye, bye,
right.
everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, so Kevin was saying that I guess made a Caldera for Jizz Audio and couple for DMS. Now I don't know. I don't know those guys personally to answer that, but I can tell you
Yeah, I don't
like
either.
he's asked me like, is there some kind of colorway I like? But he's not going out and like the red atrium closed I have. That
Mhm.
wasn't anything Zach went out crazy and bought himself or anything like that. He had those materials already on hand because
Yeah.
it met with the certain run that he had going. So I guess it kind of answers your question there. But no, I mean straight up custom, like not to my
Yeah, straight up
knowledge.
custom, not the, yeah, and even the DMS probably and those guys, I bet you bucks it's same kind of story, right? Like they probably was
Yeah.
like, oh, like so that was like for me, like he was for my atrium clothes, he was like, I finished this set, or I see he actually sent me the wood blocks originally. He's like, these are
Yeah.
yours. Like I saw them and was like, that's a Tyler headphone, and I was like, all right, man, let's
Was it
do this.
purple?
Yeah, I'll go grab them real quick. Excuse my huge fat ass and my wonderful workout gear. But like, I have my lovely Viking weave art cable here.
Oh,
Oh, and then
that's yeah.
gotta have the goose.
Yep.
Um, but so let me get my headphones on so I can actually hear you. So these are, I don't know if it's gonna show highlight there, but you can kind of see it's very reflective. But
Yeah, I remember
I have
those.
pictures up on my Instagram.
Yep.
But it's like this gold purple with purple heart kind of look wood, and they're just well, I should probably not be in the picture there, and that would might help. You can kind of get it without the reflection there, but they're very shiny and they're
Yeah.
very purple and they're gold. They have a gold like stabilized thing there, but yeah, like they're like I think that was the thing. Like he was like he had the wood blocks before they actually were actually cut into the shape, and he
Right.
saw the wood blocks, was like, these are going to be Tyler's, like so.
Yeah.
um
And what's
yeah.
nice is like he even has, the headband straps, right? I mean, he's got different
Oh yeah,
colors, so even you can
yeah, this one's purple. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's, well, can you see that? Sorry, I'm in a
No, you're
weird
good. It's
spot.
kind of dark, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's a purple, like this strap is purple,
Yeah.
and then it has
Excuse me. Yeah, what Kevin just said. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would just reach out to him. I mean, that's what's
never
so cool
hurts.
about Zach and Bevan is they'll answer you. They're not going to
Yeah,
ghost you. So,
and, and that's actually, this is beyond, even beyond them, even beyond Zach and Bevan, right? Like this is just more like a lifestyle thing, right? Or like a whatever. Like um the answer is always no until you ask.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
so take that for what it is, right? Like until you ask, it's always going to be no. And that's a hard lesson. That's a hard one. I still have struggle. I still struggle with that. Like it's funny because even right now, like I'm being my extrovert self, and probably no one ever sees me in my introvert self except for my family or some certain friends. But like Skeeves, like everyone's like, "You're not an introvert." I'm like,
No, I wouldn't think it.
eh.
It's funny because my family's just the opposite. They watch my YouTube channels. They're like, "Oh, you talk." Like, yes, I do. Hey, I wanted
Well,
to touch
yeah.
on one thing because I know
Mhm.
you only got so much time. I got a question today, and I wasn't sure how to answer it from actually a company that I'm hoping to do some things with. I won't mention who, but they asked me if let me read this again. If I'm more on the music side or pro audio side of
That's
reviewing.
a good question. That is a
It
fantastic question.
is. And I'm a very analytical person. So like I'll like, okay, what do they mean by this? Because I know what
To me, oh, go ahead, answer, and then I'll give my response. Go ahead.
to me, I'm like, and I don't want to answer him this way because it's going to sound like a cop out, but I feel like a blend because to me, pro
That's
audio
fair.
is like talking about the intricacies of audio and having pro audio equipment and things like that. But then the music side is that's why I like to give track examples when I talk about stuff because it still is about the music. And that's what so many people forget. And I can't stand measurements. I appreciate them, but I can't stand them because
That's a whole nother topic. But yeah.
exactly. But I mean, to me, that's more of the music side, the fact that I don't even discuss measurements. But I don't know. Maybe I'm off base with what I'm saying with that.
No, I think, well, honestly, if you were to ask me if you were a music or pro audio guy, like just from me knowing you and just watching some of your videos and what have you, you know what I mean? I would say you're a music guy.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Um, that, and I think because I think what they're asking you from, like, if I put my like business, like
Yeah.
I'm a company
No,
hat
please
on,
do, because yeah.
to me that sounds like they're asking if you're going to measure this.
Okay.
Are you measuring it? Are you going to nitpick the measurements? Are you going to
On my
be,
ears.
yeah, no, that's what I always say. Like, hey, I listen with my ears. I love music. That's what I got. I mean, that's what I got into this for. Like, I actually, what I got into this for was because, or headphones specifically, was because my daughter was born, can't have speakers. So, you know, because you don't want to wake up your kids and your wife, don't want to disrupt them. So headphones, playing video games, that kind of thing, listening to movies, that kind of thing. And I just rabbit holed it. And now we
Yeah.
have like 6 different ZMFs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that being said, like I think to me, you can be an analytical music lover, right?
Right.
Like that makes sense.
That
I'm
does.
not trying to say you're not pro. Like I don't. That's
No,
not like,
no, it's
you know what I mean. Like I'm not trying to be like insulting in that sense. But what I'm but
yeah.
my company thing. If I was to put like a company hat on, right? Like to me, if someone asks you if you're like pro or if you're musical, that's exactly what I'd look at, right? Like so you look at somebody like, I don't want to throw names out actually, sorry. Like some reviewers are all about the measurements, let's say, right? And they will judge a headphone by the measurement. And I've witnessed it. I've seen people listen to something like with their ears, you know, like just listening, not actually doing measurements. And then they're like, this is fantastic sounding. And then like a couple of days go by and they measure the thing and they're like, oh, this is doo-doo. It's a hot garbage headphone.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. You just said a couple days ago that you loved it
That's
because
because
it
my
sounded
ears told me one
fantastic.
thing, but the picture said another. So my ears are
Yeah.
lying.
So you're a
Whatever.
2D, they're a 2D. And that's the thing with measurements, right? So that's how I view measurements. Measurements are good. Like measurements are important. They
They
do
are.
tell a story. They're a tool to help you dial in your headphones. But ultimately, your ears are what's going to be. And it's like looking at a 2D picture versus like a 3D reality, right? Like, um, that's the difference. Like a measurement is a 2D thing. Granted, they have the 3D measurements. You can, you know, so, but like at the end of the day, I'm a big believer of if something doesn't measure well, but you enjoy the sound of it, that's ultimately all that matters.
I agree. Hey, Rigo, by the way, popped in. Um, yeah, and it's Kevin. That's funny. Yeah, I mean that. So thank you first of all, because I was
Hey,
trying to
Rodrigo.
decide how to answer that. But yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with that. It's like when I first got into the hobby, the measurements helped me understand what the heck I was hearing in my ears because I didn't know all about the frequency response and all of that. But once I learned it, I was good and I moved on. And everybody
Yeah,
stays too much in that lane. And,
yeah.
you know, I know it happens where there's reviewers that probably don't even listen to something and give a
And then
review
yeah,
off the
no,
measurement.
there is legitimately people, and some of them. I mean, you can't. I wouldn't don't go bash some of these guys or girls or whatnot.
No,
Most of them are
no,
guys,
I'm not
but
here to
like,
name call.
but like, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on like different forums and social media or social posting plus sites that will literally listen to somebody say this is bad because of a measurement, never listen to the thing, and then just will spout off that it's bad because of the measurement, which I think is inaccurate. That's unfair. It's unfair to you as a person not listening to it, and it's unfair to the people that made that. It's unfair to other people reading what you're saying, and it colors a viewpoint without actual full knowledge of a thing, right? And it's everything subjective at the end of the day too, right? So like I
Yeah,
might like you love your hard truth. What happens if I get it and I'm like, oh.
exactly. Yeah,
And that's I'm not
yeah,
saying that's the reality because I've never
but it
had it. I'm
could.
just I'm just
Yeah.
or like
Hey,
I'm drinking the single malt. You could
I
drink it and be
like
like
the Aria Organic. I have a feeling you won't.
friendship. Um, but like I don't know, like I mean that's the same thing, right? Like I have plenty of friends that don't like the stuff I like. That's which is
Yeah.
fine. That's cool.
But
That's
that's what makes this hobby fun to discuss. And that's
yes,
what people
because
forget. It's not about
yeah,
arguing, it's about discussing why you like it.
yeah, and stop being negative about it. It's you
Yeah.
can be positive or you can be constructive while still kind of like not liking a thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't
like I
know. That's
mean,
always been
I don't want to bring this up too much because I promised I wouldn't, but like Josh's video today, right? On the headphones.
the head too. Yeah,
I
yeah. That
mean,
was
like
good.
you
That
said,
was
I
real good.
agree completely. He was professional about the way that he
I
hated the
mean, there was a
headphones,
couple of,
basically.
yeah, he did not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But he knows that, again, Josh is like anybody else that he knows there's
yeah.
people behind that. So he's trying to be respectful enough to understand that. I met those guys at CanJam.
They're nice,
Yeah.
super awesome people, man. And there's the head one. I enjoyed the hell out of the head one headphone, right? Like it's stupid good. I thought it was a little bit too heavy, a little bit too bulky, too it was a little bit wonk looking, like, but it sounded fantastic, and from what I was expecting from it. Um, I didn't actually listen to the head two because of reasons.
Yeah.
But from what I've what other people told me, it aligned with what Josh had to say from the people that I generally talk to and that have, that I trust their ears or trust their opinions. Some people liked it. But I mean, it was not as many as I thought there would be.
And I'm not saying these guys did this, so don't take this to heart for that. But one other reason I don't like using trade shows for impressions too is you can't tell me that there's not certain setups, EQ profiles that can be put in. It's happened. I mean, I know it's happened. I've
It,
talked to people
it
that have said that,
it's the
but like I
it's
said, I'm
the
not saying they did that. I'm just
yeah,
saying that
I
that's
know
where
what
I
you're
got to
saying.
be
Like,
careful.
it's the Best Buy TV scenario, right? Where
Yeah.
everything's like bright as hell, and they're like, "Whoa, the images are so crazy." And then you get home, and you're like, "Wait a second, it doesn't look like this."
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah,
And
that's funny.
synergies too. I mean,
Synergies. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people forget about. Like, you're listening to this thing off like some crazy powerful, some crazy expensive, and so expensive doesn't always mean that it's good. A lot of times expensive could also mean just the quality of the parts that went into it, which then in turn make something better or sound better, because the quality is just, a higher quality components.
right.
Um, Not always the case.
Well,
But
funny you say that because they actually had the head two on the ADI2 deck, which I have, which I was glad to
okay.
listen on that. But then next to it was the Lena stack. And I said, no, no, no. I don't want to listen to that in a Lena stack because I'll never own one of those. I don't
Yeah.
want that impression.
Yeah. And exactly, right? Like, you go to these trade shows, you're listening to a DCS stack and you're like, this is amazing. And it's like,
I'm sure
then
it
you get
is.
home and you plug it into your niche piety for $100.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I mean, that's the factor. That's something you definitely have to take into account with some of these shows, like you said. Like honestly, like the even like Amps and Sound, Justin's right. You listen to HG800 off his 300B Red October or one of his Nautiluses or even his Kinsey, man, and then you go, wow, that's fantastic. And then you go listen to HG800 off. You go home and you throw it onto like your, I don't know, like a solid state, Magni or one of the what's it, Maggie Modi, and
Yeah.
then you have the Asgard. You throw it on like an Asgard or something, and you're just like, this is not the same.
Right. Yeah.
But I
Speaking of
mean,
which, is the Red October, this is probably going to sound really stupid, but it is the red amp, right? The
yeah,
ginormous. Okay.
yeah.
I
So the
thought so.
Nautilus was like the pale blue one that he did, and then
Okay.
the Red October, and then he's done some tweaks to it. He has like a version 2, and like so Justin. So here's the thing about Justin, man. You have to, and everyone should be kind of aware. Justin started in DIY audio, like
Yeah.
and he's like a speaker guy though. He makes like I have a pair of his speakers that I bought from him, and he makes things like that's his thing. He loves making audio. Like he's actually a proper passionate dude that like loves to tweak and make audio. And so he's constantly trying to like eke out as much performance as he possibly can from each iteration that he does. So that's why you'll see him like pop out like new iterations of things rapidly because he's in his workshop till 1 a.m, like, oh, maybe this component will sound good,
Right.
like and then beyond that, like this is another factor I want to talk about real quick. Like you won't see it ever unless you actually go to his website. And I'm just using Justin as an example because I know him and I've seen his stuff and I've heard his stuff. But there's other, like Hollow. I have the Spring 3 actually right behind me, but like Hollow is another one that does like this what I'm about to talk about. You open these amps up, right? Or you open up like the Hollow, or you open up one of Amps and Sounds amps, and it's a work of art inside. Like the cabling, the wiring, it's all like perfectly matched. It's perfectly lined up. It's all routed perfectly. It's like this. It's beautiful. Like I almost want to have like a clear case for some of this gear because it's like so pretty on the inside.
Yes.
As far as like an engineering, like how they put it together kind of thing.
Right.
Because it's just gorgeous. Like some of the stuff is just like it's so pristine and so well laid out that it's like because you can open some amps. Like go if you have an AV receiver at home, right? Go pop that bad boy open and see like all the cables that are like rainbowed everywhere, right? And then go look on Amps and Sounds website and look at his inside of one of his amps, and you tell me which one you think is a more quality build.
Yeah,
And
no, that's
it's
really
time
cool.
and effort. It's the time and effort. That's the part, right? The quality is not always necessarily because it's the quality materials, but also the quality of the effort put into making that build quality so nice.
Right. Yeah, no, I got a chance to talk to him on day 2. And he had his wife and daughter there, and I told him, I was like, man, that is so cool to have your family there right with you. And just,
Well, the Kinsey, that's his daughter's name. So the Kinsey is
oh,
his daughter's.
yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, super nice guy. I mean, I took your advice to talk to him a little bit. So, yeah,
Yeah,
very
man.
nice guy.
In my opinion, too, like, and I've been telling him this for a long time, like, his stuff sounds really good on headphones, but ultimately, like, my favorite use of his amps has always been paired with, like, some very efficient speakers, right? Like,
Yeah.
a lot of, like, the uh, JBLs, like a lot of the big boy JBLs, or like what I have, the Corn Scalas or like the Clips, what have you, like those kind of things with the big giant woofers and the big horns. Like they do it. It's something magic. It's kind of like when you listen to your Bottlehead Bottlehead Crack. It's like when you listen to the Bottlehead Crack, which I have mine. Like it's just right here actually. It's like listening to the Bottlehead Crack, right? With your 600s or your 650s or your HD 800. Man, it's a whole nother beast, man. It's a transformative thing.
It is all about the flavors.
Mm-hmm.
We doing
I
on
mean,
time?
I have time, man. So if you want to go a little bit over, the wife just went. I just heard the garage go up and down, so she's gonna go get the daughter right now. So I got time if you want to
Okay.
continue.
Yeah, no, I actually,
I know you
so
had some other topics you wanted to check
yeah,
about.
no, the other topic I was gonna kind of segues. We touched on measurements. We won't. We could do a whole thing on that. I won't.
We can do a quick measurement talk real quick. So
Yeah, it's just I think we've
this
kind
is the
of.
title of your the thing here. So I mean,
It's
we
true.
can.
I mean, okay, well, I guess I can at least say that. So the reason why I made that title is obviously because the measurements things bother me. But I will say,
Yeah.
like you were talking about talking to Warren and Jude, I have a high
Mm-hmm.
respect for that guy after I watched a seminar that he did in Chicago CanJam talking about
Jude or
measurements.
Warren?
Jude.
Jude. Yeah,
He
yeah.
did a whole, because he's obviously big measurements guy, but in the
Mm-hmm.
right way, in my opinion, just based off of what I watched, because he was talking about how, like I said, that they're important, but they're never going to replace the ear. And he said you can clearly tell sometimes if you'll watch a reviewer or even just somebody like typing something up when they're referring to, oh, I heard this peak around 4.5K. And it's like, no, they didn't. It's bullshit. They're just talking about the graph and what they saw there. And he said it's highly unlikely that people are that laser focused on what they're hearing. Now, some can, but
It's so rare, and in reality, it's probably more mental than it is reality.
right. But it was nice to hear him say that because
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest things that irritates me is when I'll see like on social media, Twitter, whatever else, forums, and somebody will ask a question, hey, how does X gear sound? And instead of a response, somebody spits a graph out like that.
Which
Really?
is annoying.
Yeah,
And it's because we're in the environment of graphs right now, right? Like
we
this is
are.
the era of graphs, which is so annoying. Like, and it does this, man. There's the ebbs and flows of like the audio world. Like I sent you that video from Devore Audio, which is a speaker maker, so you can take with a grain of salt, whatever. But like he had a very good point. And I remember this too growing up. a kid. I was a kid during this era. So, I mean, but I do remember my dad talking about it. My dad was a very musically inclined person in the sense of he liked music. He wasn't a musician, but he loved music and he disliked. So he'd always get like the older stuff and like records. He loved records. So, but anyways, there was this period in I think it was like the 70s, 80s, and late 70s, but mostly the 80s and into the 90s, where if you look at stereophile, and it was the THD measurement, which is very popular now in headphones, which is interesting and telling. But you could actually go look at the history of THD in the old stereophile stuff from the 80s and 90s, and the THD measurement, and everyone focused so hard on these THD measurements for amplifiers for stereo speaker systems, right? And the quality of the amps degraded so drastically towards the end of that it was just it turns into what you have now, which is these really cheap Sony, or not Sony cheap, but you know what I mean? Like they turned into AV receivers where they're not considered a stereo component anymore. They're considered this 5.1 thing, and like it's not the same. Like, I don't know, like, and because they focus so much on this weird measurement piece, and then it's come to find out, like, I mean, it goes back as far as you can talk about. THD is an important thing to some level, but the reality of it actually being something that most people would actually hear and care about when they actually listen to a thing is non-existent. Like no one can hear THD. No one can be, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you can if it's like some stupid spike that's like completely horrible, but nobody's making stuff that has that to where it's hearable. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my hot take. So don't come at me with, I'm a music guy first, and I like to hear things, not measure things. So I'm not trying to say that the measurement people are wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, as a average consumer, that metric is not valuable. As a high-end person, maybe it could be more valuable, but as for your average consumer, it's just a numbers game, like, it's a nice thing to see, but not necessarily something they'd actually understand or care about.
And it goes back to even deeper when you've heard people talk about in the past of artists intended and that kind of stuff. And, a lot of these artists and things, they don't care what something measures, or they might have some $50 headphone that they're mixing their, recording.
A lot of them are Audio
Technicas,
Technicas, bro.
Concerned about the measurement with it.
Yeah, a lot of them use Audio Technica, like the M50. A lot of use those. A lot of them use the Bear Dynamics. Which, if you ever listen to Bear Dynamics, those things are stabby as all get out, right? So, like, half these people aren't using stuff. It's the sound engineer. What you're hearing in your digital or what you're hearing on the radio, that's not necessarily. I mean, that's how how the artist intended it, in the sense that they're sitting there in the engineering space and they heard the engineers fine, but really you're hearing what the engineer intended.
Yeah.
Like, let's ultimately be real here. You're hearing how the engineer mixed and mastered that piece, not how the artist sat there and played live. Right.
It's funny because I talked to the guy over at I think it's VZR. Am I saying that right? He does they do a gaming headset. They have one headphone out right now, and I guess it came out in 2021. I had never heard of it till I saw him at CanJam, but I had a long discussion with him because he was actually sitting with the guy from Cavelli Audio talking about their amps. And he said he came from the background of music engineering for video games. And I told him, I said, how much does it bother you when you see people say, gaming audio, just use whatever for that? He's like, oh, don't get me started. He's like, because you don't have any idea how much time and effort's put into actual orchestra recording music.
I'd say video game audio is probably exponentially more than a regular, because you have to deal with not just the music, like there's actual music. If you listen to, even while you're playing Call of Duty live, right, there's actual music going on, like, underlying, right? But then you have this footsteps, you have the effects, like the gunfire, the rustling of clothes, the running, the breathing, there's all these other factors that they're playing, and then they mix it to be 3D and like all around, it's a whole another beast, man.
It is. I'm like that guy when I play with my friends. I'm always saying, what'd you say? Because I've got my music up way too loud so I can actually hear what they created. But yeah, no, it was fun talking to him and just seeing his side of that, because I agree. I was like, I don't think it's just, no, yeah, some games it's an afterthought, but a lot of these like AAA games and things, they really put a lot of thought into that.
Dude, go play Ori and the Ori games from Microsoft. talking about those side scrollers,
Yeah.
and listen to that soundtrack. Or you can just go to Spotify or Qobuz or whatever and find this and pull it up and listen to those soundtracks, and don't tell me that's not an emotional soundtrack. Like that's beautiful. Like I've been like Elden Ring
soundtrack is fantastic.
Yeah, beautiful. Like, I mean, actually, some of my vinyls that I have, a lot of them are actually old video game soundtracks. That's just the way, because that's what I collected. And it's because they're just, some of those are just gorgeous. I'm a video game guy. I don't know if you ever noticed, but like my whole right arm is all old school video game tattoos.
Oh yeah.
And that, like, it's, and I'm not trying to belittle, by the way, going back to like what I was talking before, because I was pretty negative there, I think, a little bit with some of the measurement folks. But like, I think there's value in measurements. I just don't think there's as much value as other people are putting into them. That's, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
a lot of these guys aren't even scientists. Like, they've been doing it for a couple of years. They have some thing, or they got somebody bought them a thing, and they like a measurement. But like, I'm sorry, man, but like, to me, like,
I think on the bass level, I was going to talk about bass too. That's funny, but on the bass level, I mean, yes, like if you see a measurement and it's got like this big hump of bass, yeah, you're probably going to hear some bass. Yeah. I get that on the general level, but
yeah, it's a valuable thing to understand what you're walking into, but it won't tell you the whole story.
Right.
Right. Like, and like, I still use it even in my things. I'll talk about the mid range, the highs, the lows, the upper mids, the lower mids. Like it's a factor. It is a real thing. It's, the measurements matter, sure, but I don't think when you focus only on that 2D graph that you're hearing the whole story.
Yeah.
Because people tune, like, so for instance, like Zach, right? He's tuning these headphones. He's manually tuning these headphones to hit something, right? Where he listens to it and goes, that's it. And ETA, same thing. When he's doing it, he's measuring, and he's trying to tune it to, when he finally listens to you, he goes, yes, that's what I want it to sound like. That's artistry. Like, and you can't measure artistry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, to me, that's the art of it, right? And then you were trying to throw a science onto an art, and then on top of all of that, you and everyone listening right now, we're all different. We all have different biologies. We all have different ear shapes. We all have different. And here's something a lot of people don't even talk about, and this is a factor that's really heavily factored, actually, is our brains and our experiences and our life experiences will color our experience with the thing. So, yeah, right. Then throw in like, and dude, you're on a whole nother trip, right? Yeah. You're like the experience of a thing. Like, so me listening to my ZMFs, me picking this up, me literally just grabbing this, I just got a moment, like a little jolt of like brain chemistry that went, like, that's beautiful. Or, I enjoy holding this. It feels so good in the hand. Like, I'm like, the feel, the smell, there's all these things that come into play in that experience for each individual. Not just like as a grand thing, but as each individual. And those experiences are actually going to play way more heavily into your opinion of that thing.
Yeah, no, we've talked about that. There's so many factors that go into your musical enjoyment, and it goes on down, and usually should mostly start with the headphones first, right? The thing you put on your head, or that your IEMs. But I mean, like, when I listen to tubes, I almost always want to have a glass of whiskey, because I don't know what that is. That's just like a magic.
Oh, that's a little bit magic. Yeah.
It is
a little bit floating on the ocean of music, man.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I think that was actually the other topic I wrote down that you started, was just, where we talked about that in Discord. Like, where do you rank the importance of everything as you go down the chain, as far as DACs and amps, cables?
So, like, actually, so let's do that real quick, because I just heard the garage go up. So my wife and daughter home, so it's probably dinner time soon. But so I'll do that real quick, and then I want to hear your answer. So for me, I'm a big fan of, like, DACs matter, but they're not the end all. Like, DACs are the difference in a DAC is so minimal that once you do hear it, you can hear it, and it's a thing. You can, like, and usually people exaggerate the differences in DACs
right.
because that's such a minute thing that you have to really, like, exaggerate it to make it understandable of what you're hearing, right? So that being said, DACs, I think, pick one you like. based on looks, your opinions of things. Like ESS tends to be a little bit brighter, AKM can be a little bit more, and these are like sock chips, but like those can be a little bit more warm and whatnot. Or you go for like an R2R. I'm a big fan of R2Rs. It can be a little more natural, and you pick one that you like or you think you will like. You max out your budget for it. Pick a budget, max it out for that, and then forget about it for as long as you can for DAC. So DAC to me is like the last thing you should really be worrying about. But I do think it's important. You should definitely pick a budget, max the budget out, and pick a DAC that fits that budget. The next most important thing would be your honestly the most important thing, the number one most important, it would be your transducer, your actual movement, your actual cup design, like the IEM, the headphone, the speaker. That's probably the most money should go into that. Then the amp, and then the DAC. That would be my chain. And then if you're really crazy, you can go into like the cables and that kind of stuff. I'm not a big cable guy. Like, so I have right here, I have Viking Weaves. I have one of Skedra's cables, and it's, oh dude, it's so beautiful. And this one I got from him, and you can't really see it, but it's like I have pictures of it. But the split, it's actual opal, like actual jeweled opal inlay. Nice. Like, and it's and it feels so good in the hand. Like, man, it's art. And so to me, I'm paying for the jewelry of this cable and the build quality. I'm not necessarily buying or paying for the quality of the sound of this, because I'm sure some people hear a difference in the cable of a headphone cable. But to me, I'm not going to stress about it. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to think about that. I'm thinking about how pretty is this? Is it something that I want to have dangling on my neck right now? This is a was it Ninja Audio cable that I have right now, which is built fantastic, looks cool, does the job. That's where I would probably lay and fall in that regard. Like, I believe in science, like I think there's materials, like, so it's electrical current going through the cable, right? And so different materials, and there's going to be differences, will have, different resistances. And that's what you're dealing with the cable, is the resistance. And so like the resistance of that material, depending on how pure it is, or, if there's any defects, or if there's anything in that specific wire, and every wire is going to be different, could have a play in that. Sure. Can I actually hear that? Right. And that's my opinion on those. I guess those are the main things in in a setup, right? You have your headphones. So headphones, amp, DAC, cables. And then I guess source. So, and then I have like, FLAC or, Spotify or Qobuz. And you can definitely hear a difference between that. But like, I would say first thing I'd worry about would be headphones, next amp, then DAC. Then I'd probably worry about, after the DAC, I'd say your audio source. So like your FLAC files are like an analog source, like a vinyl or what have you. And then after that, I'd worry about cables last. Like, just not because I think they're going to make a massive difference, but depending on your setup.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, I'm actually kind of almost exactly in line with that, just because I've been able to hear enough of the different amps and things that I didn't get a chance to listen to when I first got into the hobby, especially going to CanJam and things and experiencing tubes and understanding that not all tubes are just for dynamic driver headphones, because you got those differences too.
Power. There's different power inputs and power gains.
Oh yeah. And I'm with you. Like the cable thing, I've made the mistake in the past of saying, it's a cable, who cares? And I'm not going to do that anymore, because I've talked to enough people that I feel like they're not BS. They're truly hearing a difference. That's great. But I'm with you. I'm like, to me, that's like the percentages, like small percentages of a difference. Yeah. To me, mood. We were talking about that in Discord too. Yeah. If I'm like trying to get a video out or something and I have my notebook, I have to take notes, because if I don't do that, I don't remember things so well as to just listen. But I've got to be in the right mood for that. And if I'm, either too tired, or if I had too much caffeine, I'm just too much coffee. It matters, man. And I mean, that's where I don't know where to throw that in the mix, but I actually think sometimes that's more important than even some of those other things.
I'd say mood and how that factors. Like, so Caffeine, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Obviously booze, whatever else you're on or think you like to partake upon, like that will factor in. Honestly, beyond everything I just said, when you just said, I think that will actually have a bigger impact on you than anything else in that chain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, CanJam's a perfect example of that.
Mm.
I bought the Cobalt from Draconian Hi-Fi Man at Chicago CanJam because I liked what I was hearing there. But once I got it home in a nice quiet setting and listened to it, I was like, I don't really like this headphone after all. My wife did, but she doesn't listen to it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. And again, mood. I was,
mood. You're excited.
yeah, I
You're
was
you're,
excited
you're
and
happy to
thinking,
be there. You're getting
right.
amped. You're ready to be like, whoop, like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that, that
Rigo.
will that will
I
play.
agree, Rigo. That Moondrop cable is dope. That's why I bought it.
Oh, I need to check the chatties here. But yeah, like I think it's it's definitely one of those things where I think mood will play definitively more so into the overall feel. Like I could be, that's what hence the Porta Pros with the Axi pads, right?
Yeah.
If I'm in a good mood, I don't give like that. That's plenty for me. I'm jamming. I'm listening to music. I'm going. I'm a happy person. I'll be in like we're on vacation. That's why I listen to Porta Pro. I'll go out into the like a sit on the beach and listen to Porta Pros with like a little dongle thing and Spotify, and I'm happy as spit because my environment and my mood is so good that I'm like that's all I need. Or even AirPods Pro. Like that's something I think people lose a little bit in this hobby is, and not that it's a loss or not that it's a bad thing, but that sometimes people get so focused on the measurements or so focused on the gear that they forget to actually sit back and relax
Just
and
enjoy the
listen to the
music.
music and enjoy it and have a good time. And like, like pick your favorite track and just, because the artists are that's the artistry, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Very true. All right. Well, I think we can wrap this up. I know you got to get going, and appreciate everybody joining in on this. I'd like to do these like
the
once a
inaugural
month at least.
stream.
Yeah. It actually went
I,
okay.
I want your wife to come run in and grab your hard truth you just bought for $70 and smash it on your desk and spray it.
No, it's limited. Take the
Yeah,
other one.
ships away, ships away.
Right. Well, yeah, this was fun, Tyler. I appreciate you joining me on this because yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while. So
Yeah, dude,
I
they're
definitely want
fun.
to do this when Zach launches his
The
either the
Boca.
headphone or the amp or both. I think that'd be fun to
Mhm.
talk about.
Yeah, man. I need to reach out to them too and talk to them more about that too. But yeah, man, that's the hardest part of like talking to industry people, right? It's like you forget to just reach out to some of those people sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because they're people too. They're just they're out here having a good time as well. So
That's very true.
all right, man. Yeah, it was a blast. It was fun. It was definitely cool, and I look forward to doing more of this stuff down the road. And maybe I got that headshot I'm working on. I'm getting there for you.
Okay.
So I'll hit you up, and then we'll eventually get this back to another channel thing. We'll tip for tat.
Cool.